universe has rules, many rules. Rules like gravity, magnetism, cause and effect. Don'ts, and more don'ts. But what if those rules could be bent, or even broken, or worse yet, discovered that they were never rules at all? Einstein described the universe as a four-dimensional fabric that warps and bends and in some cases folds in on itself. But a fabric is just a matrix, even a four-dimensional one. And what if changes could be effected upon that fabric that were not the result of even the most anomalous quantum effect? What if, instead, these unnatural alterations were the result of verified, certified, authorized free will? Enter magic. Magic, simply put, is the manipulation of the physical world without using the physical laws. The working of a ritual is intended to bring about a change that was not created from natural laws of cause and effect, but rather based on desire. One of magic's most peculiar aspects is the arbitrary nature of its rituals and preparations. Often in magic, one must prepare strange, seemingly useless herbs, say certain incantations in just the right way when the moon is just right, while staring down at symbols that look like they came from an etch-a-sketch or something. Now clearly, these strange procedures have only nominal effect on our reality in and of themselves. The incense rises and fades, the sound waves created by the incantations expand a short while and disappear, and as for the symbols, just carvings. Who chooses these rules? And by what force is our will executed if the recipe is followed? Well, it's safe to say that these rituals aren't for us, since our deepest desires came before the ritual. And if these rituals aren't for our sake, then it isn't by our energy that executes the various commands in witchcraft. It's like someone looking over your shoulder, waiting for you to do just the right thing at just the right times, and then executing your wishes. But what being of such power has the patience to serve a mortal in this fashion? And is this service voluntary or forced? And why symbols and incantations anyway? Why should a spirit care which direction you're facing, which chants you make in long forgotten languages, which symbols you're gazing upon, and where the stars are? Do the beings force themselves to execute the will of those with these special symbols and special chants? Or has this servitude been forced upon them? One struggles to envision any sentient being enforcing against themselves. Do they choose to be chained to these symbols and preparations? Would they choose otherwise?
But oh, to be free. Not to have to go, what do you need? What do you need? What do you need? To be my
And indeed, even the most benign exorcisms of the Christian, Catholic, and Islamic churches is still just magic. There's nothing special about the sound waves produced during these prayers that forces a demon from his host, so some other force must lie in wait, waiting for the correct words to be uttered, so that he may drive away the malevolent spirit. But who or what is this other entity? And is it the same entity who enforces their compliance in black magic? When looking for the Illuminati's answers to these questions, one of the first books to emerge on radar is the Necronomicon.
Now, Abdul will read from the Necronomicon.
Isaac, Azuri, Galaneth, Maledictu, Nosferamus, and Principe.
For within the pages of the Necronomicon lie the very secrets of the universe, both past and future.
Many authors have written a Necronomicon of their own, but the original was written by an Arab named Abdul al-Hazred, and was later translated by Dr. John Dee in the 16th century. Many know John Dee as the founder of the British Secret Service and the original 007, signing his memos to Queen Elizabeth with 007, who was both her spy and her astrologer. Abdul al-Hazred, the writer of the first Necronomicon, was said to have written it in the 8th century, at the age of 76, just before his death in Damascus. One of the most interesting things about John Dee's translation, as opposed to the other versions of the Necronomicon, or any other books about black magic you'll find out there, is the apologetic tone it's written in. Abdul al-Hazred hated the demons who enlightened him, feared for his body, and feared for his eternal soul even more, and hated his deeds upon the earth, and stated such many times throughout the text. The universe described by this deepest of deep insiders came straight out of the Matrix. A world where the soul and the body can part, and the soul can travel the universe while the body waits idle, and if either body dies while you're plugged into the Matrix, you're gone. A world where beings just outside of our sight feed off the etheric energy of man, a world full of beings who live not in the spaces known to man, but in the angles and spaces between. Beings called Maskim, who scavenge, ready to drag away the souls of the dead. Beings who live in timeless kingdoms beneath the earth and seas, and even beings among us, in human disguise. The Necronomicon also tells the tale of a spiritual battle, a tale where dark gods, called the Ancient Ones or Old Ones, are cast from heaven to the darkest place in the universe, called the Agigi. There they long brood for a revenge against the stars of heaven for a battle long lost, and ever await a celestial event. And when the stars are right, Cthulhu, their priest, and Azagthoth, their leader, will lead the Ancient Ones out of their prison. Cthulhu, the beast of the apocalypse, will establish his kingdom upon the earth, from which he will lead an army that will bring a war to the front door of God himself. According to his story, his introduction into the world of magic and the unseen began on a rather mysterious night that he would later sum up in one word: Cthulhu. He was walking through the mountains at night when he stumbled across a large gray stone, the size of a man, with 3 strange carvings on it. He decided to set up camp, start a fire, and fall asleep. He was awakened by the howl of a wolf close at hand. Then the gray stone began to rise slowly off the ground. He then heard the sound of men approaching and hid behind a bush. Several men in black robes approached the floating stone without fear and began to murmur incantations. Slowly, large serpents, one after the other, rose from the ground beneath the floating stone. Then Alhazred noticed the ground he was hiding on has become wet and the fluid to be blood-like. At the realization that the ground beneath his hiding place has become blood, he reveals his presence to the black-robed men. Casting their ritual into disorder, the mysterious priest begins chasing Alhazred. After running at high speeds for a short while, he eventually falls to the ground and notices that there are none pursuing him. Returning to the site of the stone, he notices that the priest's empty robes upon the ground. He uses a stick to investigate the robe, but it appeared as though the priest simply disappeared. He returned to his campground to find the large gray stone lying upon the ground. The large lizards were gone, and several empty black robes strewn around the campsite. Symbols on the gray stone, however, were glowing. From there, step by step, Abdul Alhazred began to wander and dabble further and further into the occult. Eventually, Alhazred would claim that he spoke with the souls of slain men and women who died at childbirth, spoke with watchers, live gods, dead gods, and even deader demons. He claims to have opened portals and walked into all the dimensions and passed all 9 gates. During his travels throughout this dimension and others, his family and their livestock suffer unusual and suspicious deaths. Abdul Alhazred himself is said to have died in the streets of Damascus after being torn to pieces by invisible beings. Alhazred claims that the arcane and ancient knowledge you're about to learn has been forgotten by all except the worshippers of the Ancient Ones, or the demons. What you're about to hear are the secret teachings of the Illuminati. An easy way to think of extra dimensions and the beings that reside in them is birds and humans. Because of gravity, humans are subject to a 2-dimensional surface, bound to the surface of a fabric. A wall, 12 feet high or more, can block his way. A bird, on the other hand, would not be bound by a 12-foot wall, or even a 30-foot wall. A bird would have to be contained in an additional way, and having access to the 3rd dimension, so must their cage be 3-dimensional. Now if you were to attempt to attack a bird who is, say, pecking the ground for worms, he would be within your grasp and forever in potential danger as long as he is within 12 feet of the ground. Now there's nothing special about the air above your head, and the 12 feet to the left and the right is no different than 12 feet straight up. They can both be easily measured in the same units and contain the same combination of gases. So what's different about 12 feet straight up? You don't have access to that dimension. Now there's nothing mystical about the current location of the bird, and there's nothing mystifying about the direction he just moved, and there's certainly nothing mysterious about a bird itself, aside from the surviving the things they eat. It has the same needs and similar vulnerabilities. Its parts are what you would call material, or quote-unquote real. This is a very easy way of thinking about ghosts and demons. The reason you can't trap a ghost in a particular room, or even in the house, is the very same reason you can't contain a bird in a prison yard. Having access to that extra dimension, the ghost